This is Dolynny TV. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is Labor Day here in Canada, and my goodness, I could probably use a nap. Let's be honest. Went and watched Spider-Man Far From Home last night. I can't even pronounce it, guys. This is going to be a rough video, and we aren't even 20 seconds in. However, that doesn't mean we aren't going to discuss things. I want to get this one out. I've had a plan pretty much all weekend as to how I was going to execute things and what I was going to put out because, well, it's September 2nd now. We're about 3 days away from getting the news we want, which is rookie camp starting. And then things get interesting, right? That's exactly. Things get interesting once rookie camp begins. But for right now, we have a couple loose ends to tie up, and I thought this video is better than any to kind of look at those loose ends. Those loose ends coming into training camp as an Edmonton Oilers fan. So where does that begin? Where do you start thinking, well, what's a loose end for the Edmonton Oilers? And I think the number one question we have, the number one question everybody seems to bang on about is the depth scoring, the guys in the bottom six, who's going to step up, who's going to get it done, who's even going to damn well be there. And that's exactly to my point right here in this number one question is how does the bottom six kind of shake out, right? That's one of the biggest burning questions I think we all have when it comes to training camp. We obviously assume Archibald, Granlund, Kara, Gagne, those are four for sure. Then you've got a couple other guys in there that should be able to make a difference in Haas and Nygaard. Well, okay, now you got six, but what about Benson? What about this guy? What about Brodziak? What about that? What about Yurko, right? So that's going to be the extremely fun part about camp. Honestly, watching that bottom six shake out and watching probably the first two games of competition. That's going to be the beautiful part, right? Those first two games, I would highly doubt that anyone more than one of Nuge or Draisaitl plays both, right? I highly doubt one of them plays both, let alone two, or even McDavid plays two. So that aside, what does that mean? That means a lot of time on ice in training camp games to kind of necessarily see these new guys fit the mold that will be Dave Tippett's coaching system. That's number two kind of deal. Actually, I'll put that as a 1A because I don't have that on my list because we have, I could go on for hours about burning questions coming to the Oilers into training camp. It is absolutely crazy, and we need answers to these, and that's what training camp's going to do. So now, as I said, I've already mentioned Tyler Benson's name in the bottom six conversation, but that is to point number two, not 1A. Point number two is the question about Tyler Benson, Evan Bouchard, Joel Persson, Caleb Jones, Ethan Bear, right? Dmitry Samorukov, William Legason, if you want some long shot kind of surprises. But you look at those guys and you have to ask, are any of them going to make the NHL roster? Obviously, you could look at Josh Curry. You could look at Joe Gambardella as well. Those are guys still kind of in that rookie-ish conversation for this year. So the question really is, for the Edmonton Oilers, when you look at this roster, you kind of look at maybe the bottom six is going to shake out with a lot of veteran guys. The top six is a little shaky. The defense is a little shaky. Goaltending's a bit shaky. Everything seems shaky until proven otherwise. Yeah, sure. But where's the room for the kids that we have in the system to come up and make an impact this year? And I mean, okay, just stop me if you've heard us all bang on about that before, right? We've all thought, the kids are going to come up, make an impact, and we'll be fine. They dud. We have to fill the roster space, and we're dud by the end of the year. Happens year in, year out on pretty much a regular basis. But the reason I'm excited this year is we actually have like 5 or 6 actually developed prospects. Not Kyler Yamamoto out of his draft year. Not Jesse Puljujarvi playing a couple games in Bakersfield and coming up to the NHL. No. These are actually developed, seasoned prospects we're talking about. And that's the craziest part of it, I think. So, what else can we talk about? Well, you look at number 3. Number 3 is an interesting one here as well, because you can kind of look at how does the bottom 6 shake out, how, which, and where, and when, if I could choose my right word I'm looking for. Rookies make the squad, if any. Well, that leaves 3 guys in particular in very big limbo. And I mean, you can probably guess which 3, especially considering I didn't mention one of their names in the bottom 6 conversation, because, yeah, sure, he's an incumbent, but he's got a tough uphill battle based on what he did with the Oilers last year. And those 3 would be what becomes of Brandon Manning, Colby Cave, and Kyle Brodziak. That ultimately is the big question. You have to ask yourself what becomes of those 3. Honestly, we thought maybe a 50-50 split that Brandon Manning would be traded this offseason. I would have taken a conditional 7th round pick in 2023. Honestly, it is nothing that I'm asking too much that Brandon Manning be traded. Realistically, I am willing to wash hands. Heck, give me future considerations if you want, kind of deal. So we'll have to see what comes to camp when it comes to Brandon Manning. I believe the most likely scenario, since he ended up as a scratch in Bakersfield, is the fact that he will kind of morph into that guy who sits at home and gets paid. Sucks. Bury him in the minors, right? It sucks, but you make up with it what you will. Colby Cave, it's not the fact that he can't be buried in the minors, but like I said, he's the incumbent from last year. He played some meaningful minutes, but didn't have a meaningful impact. Now, I loved Colby Cave on the ice, don't get me wrong. At times, he was a little ball of absolute go-go out there, and it was fantastic to watch somebody bring that much pace to an Oilers game, because Lord knows we didn't get enough of it down the stretch. And then Kyle Brodziak, you want to talk about a guy who doesn't bring too much pace. No fault of his own. He's old. He's at the tail end of his career, and we have to find a role for him, or we have to ship him. I don't think you send him down to Bakersfield. You already got Brad Malone down there, and I don't think you just sit him on as the 14th guy and don't use him. So there has to be some kind of situation in which Kyle Brodziak's role with the Oilers is solved, whether trade, whether it be some kind of roster role or something. Something has to be done with Kyle Brodziak, and I mean, he had a down year last year. I could be totally out to lunch. He could start on that 4th line center role and take off and get 20 goals. I've seen crazier stuff happen. Don't kid yourself. We know what happens, right? Milan Lucic was traded to Calgary of all places. Now, speaking of crazier things happening, well, last year we had this crazy little streak where we had a crazy hot goaltender who did crazy things, and then all of a sudden he fell apart towards the end of the year. Weaknesses got exposed, things got ugly, and a lot of fans really questioned that contract, myself included, don't kid me wrong, but you get where I'm going, is if it's a good go this year, it's not a bad contract. So who am I talking about? I think you can all figure it out. In terms of net goaltending, it is Mr. Mikko Koskinen, and my question that I want answered during training camp when it comes to Mikko Koskinen would be what changes he's made to his game. What has he done to become a better NHL goaltender? And that's, realistically, camp's a really good time to see that. We'll get to see it worked on, right? If you go to the open practice, if you watch the training camp preseason games on YouTube, a couple on Sportsnet, it is going to be good. And that's exciting. So Mikko Koskinen, maybe a question mark for the NHL season as it sits right now, but I think training camp's definitely going to solve kind of our concerns one way or another as to Mikko Koskinen. And now, 5 burning questions. I've already gone through 4 and a bit. So now number 5, and I think number 5, guys, goes almost without saying. As we've all summer long, I've banged on about it in 2 different videos. I've kind of talked about almost all of this in 2 other videos, but the big thing here is Connor McDavid being in training camp? When will we see him? And realistically, I'm hoping we see him a little bit later on, right? Obviously, start camp with the team, non-contact, just working it out, kind of getting ready in shape. And then don't waste him up in games. Let him get his legs under him, and that's it. That's it. That's all the Oilers have to do. But the question is, when will we see him? And we need that question answered in training camp, not in the beginning of the season. That would be an absolute write-off disaster if we don't have Connor McDavid to open up the year October 2nd against the Vancouver Canucks. So guys, that's my 5 burning questions. Now, I mean, these are kind of a best hits of my summer in terms of what I chose to talk about in today's video. I want to hear your 5 burning questions. Yes, I know I'm inviting a lot of talk I don't want to hear, but that is exactly the point of what we do down there in the comments. We discuss, I argue with you, I agree with you, I give you a different point of view, you give me a different point of view. Get down there, get talking. Let's have a good chat in the comments because it's been a pretty good weekend, and now let's get back to routine because, guys, hockey season is 5 days away, right? There you go. So, let's go get this going in the comments. I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. I will catch you in the next one.